I'm Phil Riley, and this week, these are the choices of Junior Campbell. Marmalade Reflections, what a great song, written by, in part at least, by tonight's guest on Choices, who is Junior Campbell. I asked you to just pick a few stories. You gave me that Beatles one. You also said, we've got to talk about Henry Mancini. So tell me the Henry Mancini story.
I used to play a lot of charity football in those days, and there was a guy who used to go to the pub in Barnes where we used to meet, a guy called Terry Oates, who was a lovely guy. He was a music publisher. And I didn't know it, but he ran Eton Music, which was the great Henry Mancini's UK arm of his music publishing.
Right.
So just in passing, Terry said to me, I got a busy week next week. He said, I got Hank coming in. I said, who's Hank? He said, Henry Mancini. I said, you're kidding. And then he explained to me that he ran. I said, what's he doing? He said, well, he's doing a Hitchcock film called Frenzy. And they're at the scoring stage down in Bayswater at CTS Studios. He's in for 2 or 3 days. I said, Terry, you have to get me into that studio. I won't say anything. I just want to be there with the maestro. So he said, sure, not a problem. So he called me and said, yeah, get here for, I don't know, whatever time it was, 7:30. So anyway, I turned up at the studio, went into the control room. Terry's in there. I could see through the panel in the studio that the great man's in there. Probably 60 musicians with these wonderful sounds coming through the playback, with a huge big screen with the time code moving left to right across it so he could sync it up to the picture he was doing it. He would break, come in to listen back. And Terry said to him, this is Junior. I told you about it. Pleased to meet you, kid. That was it. So I was asking him all these naive questions about orchestration, like a daft boy would, who's just in his absolute dream. So this carried on, and then suddenly about 10, 15 minutes later, another door opens, and into the studio in a wheelchair comes pushing this wheelchair with this beautiful big blonde nurse, full regalia, who was very well equipped, if you know what I mean, pushing this wheelchair and that had the great Alfred Hitchcock in it.
Wow.
In his right hand, he had a glass of champagne. In his left hand, he had a big log, a big cigar. And he was well jowled up. When he just sort of sat in the control room, listened to the music, he would sort of nod his head. They would break. Henry would come in. And so they would chat away, and so off they went. So at the end of the session, he left. At the end of the session, Henry comes in and he says to Terry, right, I'm really hungry. I want to go and get some food. And he looks at me and he said, do you want to get some dinner, kid?
Wow.
This is Henry Mancini. I said, sure. So I had a Jaguar Sovereign at the time, a saloon car. So in the passenger seat was Terry Oates, and in the back seat was Henry Mancini. And we drove to Sloane Square and parked up when you could, and we had dinner. And it was all very nice. And I was absolutely just, it was just so wonderful. So anyway, end of the story, we all go home. 2 days later, I called Terry and I say, listen, Terry, I've written to you. You've got a note coming through, but I just had to call you. He said, I'll never forget what you did for me. I'm so grateful. I said, I thought Henry was really lovely and I thought his music was fantastic. So he said to me, well, I'm glad you did, because Hitchcock didn't. He got sacked. So I thought to myself, here endeth the lesson. If the great Henry Mancini can get sacked on a score of a film, what chance have the rest of us got?
We picked a great Henry Mancini track, haven't we? Which is Audrey Hepburn from the original movie soundtrack.
Yeah, and the reason, sorry to interrupt, but the reason I pick up on that is that because every time I hear that song, I say to everybody, and I have done for years, even my grandchildren, I had dinner with the man who wrote that song.
Than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's There's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbows and waiting round the bend. My huckleberry friend, Moon River, and me.
Audrey Hepburn, Moon River, a favourite song from Junior Campbell, who's our guest on Choices this week, coming next after Marmalade. He went on to have solo success both as a performer and as an in-demand producer, writer and arranger. And he's still going strong in his mid-70s. I'm Phil Riley, and this week, these are the choices of Junior Campbell. Junior, after Marmalade, I get the impression that you